welcome to 28 before 28, where I make 28 brews before my 28th birthday. And today's card, I'm so excited for this card because I love this card. Obviously, I am biased because I am a Scorpio and this is a Scorpio card. Hint, hint. But honestly, like yesterday, I was like reading about it more because I like this new deck and it's been giving me such a different perspective on the cards, and it blew my mind, honestly. So this is just trigger warning, okay? We're gonna talk about unaliving. And the card that we got today is the Death card in all her glory. I do like to refer to death as a spirit, or Mrs. Death, because the way how I see death is that it is a spirit, right? It's a spirit that comes and collects, right? So what it does is that it takes anything that is no longer in alignment with you. Sometimes it also takes things in order to leave room for something new, right? But also it is an ending, just as simple as that, right? Sometimes it's not about anything other than the fact that it is the natural end of something. And as a Scorpio who likes to hold on to so many things in life, I've been learning so much about letting go and release. And that is a big part of like the Death card, because it is a Scorpio card, right? It is all about Pluto and how it works and how it functions. And it's about releasing. It's about allowing things to, like, things have lived their life and then there's an ending, right? And I like to work with the spirit of death in terms of like, and I like give a lot of gratitude and reverence to death, because I think that death really reminds us the joys and the value of life, right? So it works hand in hand together. But it's like a lot of the times we think of death as an ending and almost like, why, like, why did you take this away from me type of situation. And that works a lot in terms of like even relationships, right? Or people physically dying, right? And letting go of things. Or for example, like the mass murders that are happening, the genocides that are happening and stuff like that. This entire journey for me with tarot literally started with the Death card. I swear to God. I bought a deck, my first deck, the Rider Waite Tarot deck. I bought it the day I signed my lease and decided to move to Puerto Rico. Okay, the first card I ever popped out was literally about death. And in that process, what was happening, okay, was that I was going back to Colorado to sell all of my stuff, to get rid of my stuff, because I was just going through so much, right? The war in Sudan just started. I felt lost. I felt like I always had a safety net of going home, and suddenly it was taken away, right? Suddenly it was just gone. In a moment, it was gone. Everything that I knew of my life and how it was shaped and how I like imagined it to be, all of that crumbled because it was based on something, right? And that something has been taken. And then suddenly I was like, oh my God. And then on top of it, like, I was in shock. Sorry, oh my God, it's in a state, but I was in shock. I was surprised, and I was also lost, right? So that was the first card that I've got, and I just realized that I was going through a major transformation, and this was one that was willing and unwillingly too, right? The unwillingly part is that things just happen, right? There's actions and consequences, and this is where we've got to, specifically with the war in Sudan. And also the willing part was that I decided that no matter what, I have to change the course of life that I'm in, right? So going back and selling all of my stuff was actually a death process for me. Getting rid of everything that I had attachment to, everything that I thought was my safety, all of that I had to let go of it, right? And it was a decision that came very last minute, very like kind of like just with the motion of everything that was going. I don't regret it one bit, right? But I've done that twice in my life. Before like when I first moved to Puerto Rico and when I last left. And it was just so interesting because I was getting so familiar with death, because death to me was such a it's always been, it's something that I grew up with, right? Like I was very aware of it, very conscious, and we also had rituals and rites around death back home in Sudan and how we honored death and stuff like that. For me, there was a huge performative part growing up in that setting, but also there's like this really communal part about it too, and that taught me a lot. And that was my expectation of death, is that oftentimes you don't go about it alone, right? Is that you always have support around you, and that it is painful because suddenly you are supposed to live life without a thing, right? Or someone, or like with the loss of something. So the whole life that now you're living is a life built upon the new reality that no longer has the thing that you used to have, whether that's comfort, whether that's a relationship, whether that's anything. It could be anything, right? So that's kind of like my relationship with death right now, is that I always revere it. I always give it gratitude because I'm so grateful for the ending, because it reminds me the value of life, and that a lot of the times we don't value life until we have a lot of regrets around how we live and stuff like that. And for me, I have made it my business to make sure that if I am to live this life, because I got to a point where I wanted to unalive myself, right? And the way out of it was literally me making the conscious choice that if I am to live this life, I have to live it while actually enjoying this life, right? It doesn't mean there's not going to be pain. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be loss. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean anything other than the fact that I am to live intentionally and to do my best to enjoy every single part of it, the ups and the downs, because that's just life, right? That's just it. So if I am to live in a way that matters, I want to live in a way where as I walk my walk towards death, right? Towards my ending, I know that every single day that I live, I'm content with where I'm at, regardless of what I have, what I don't have, what I achieve, what I don't achieve. The only thing that I do want to achieve every single day is to live. That's my goal. Is to live, and not just to live any life, to live in alignment with a life that feels good to me. I am so grateful with my life right now, regardless of what I have done, what I haven't done, what I've achieved, what I haven't achieved. I am satisfied. If I am to meet my ending, I am happy with where I'm at, because every single day I wake up and I know that I want to have the best experience of my life and to be the best version of myself in this life. Because to me, growth is the way of life. It is evolving. It is evolution, right? And that is how I chose to walk this walk. Is that I walk with death like next to me in so many ways, right? Because the way to evolve is constantly by allowing things to end, right? And when things end, who appears? Mrs. Death herself. And she comes to collect things, right? But it's also kind of like an ushering into a new beginning if we think about it in the spiritual or metaphorical or the emotional or any sense, because even as you die in the physical world, right? Your essence, your emotions, the being that you were and the energy that you have with your relationships with it is still remembered, it is still held, right? So it is the loss of you in the physical sense that really creates that kind of like ending and death. But also it means there's a new beginning of like that relationship with other people can also begin in a certain way. Like that's why I love having an altar, because to me, I don't believe in an ending that is just physical, right? I believe like, okay, the physical is ended, right? Like, okay, this person has passed on, but also I know that this person's energy and essence and the way they've carried themselves in life still exist, and I can still feel that and I can still carry that. So I honor it quite often, right? Are they gone? Yes, they're gone. But are they fully gone? If I always can remember how I felt around them or how I felt their energy, isn't that remembrance? But that's a whole different way of living with loss, right? Because you've lost that physical, but now you know that it's still here in the emotional, in the spiritual, and that you can connect to it in certain ways and times, and you make it natural, and that's how you can keep certain energies around. The herb that I got is St. John's wort. I've have like such a mixed understanding of this herb specifically, just because I know that it helps quite a bit with depression and anxiety, right? But also the way I've been reading about it and stuff like that, the way it connects to this card, it's been teaching me a lot about like for example, it says here banishing and protection. So these are two words that I want to work with. The death card, as you can see, it has a scythe right here, or a scythe. I don't know how you say that. Scythe. But it's like, it's about ending and almost like you're reaping something, right? Because that is a card that is associated with the Grim Reaper, right? Is that you come to harvest something that is no longer, right? It's taken. And that's kind of how I feel about it, is that death is taking something away, right? It is taking something away to allow room for something, right? Or for you to kind of create something or do something with that kind of like ending, with that emptiness that has been created, for something new to be reborn. What I think about it in terms of like the banishing is that sometimes you really have to be conscious about what you're letting go of in order for you to grow, right? I like this quite a bit because I like this journey that I'm in right now, where I'm at and everything, is that I understand that the things that I've done before were all in congruence with the fact that I want to live a life that I see in my mind, and I know that is in alignment with my physical body in this world, right? Because I know my capacity. I've been learning about my capacity in the physical, right? About what can my body handle, what can my mind handle, what can my emotions handle, right? And also at the same time, I understand that there's certain things that just take you to a certain place, and then you come to a moment where you outgrow that, right? And in order for you to outgrow, you shed things, right? So this is something that I want to talk about here, because yesterday I was reading and literally I was so shocked about what I was reading, because then it made so much sense. So it says that there's three like archetypes or three spirits or kind of imagery that is associated with Scorpio or with death, right? And it is the lowest form is a scorpion. The neutral form is a snake, and the third form is the eagle, or the highest aspect is the eagle. But it's so interesting because when it was talking about the lowest form, it says that why it is associated with the scorpion is that it was early observed in nature that scorpions commit suicide when finding itself ringed with fire or otherwise in a desperate situation. This represents like putrefaction, which is the process of decomposing, which is a process of death basically, where like the proteins are being decomposed, so your meats and stuff like that in your body, your flesh, and the strain, so in its lowest form. So the strain of the environment has become intolerable, and the attacked element willingly subjects itself to change, right? So I was thinking that, and accepts and embrace the process, right? So I was thinking about that a lot, because that was kind of like my quote unquote beginning, is that that's what I did, right? I got rid of my entire life to the ground. Like I got rid of everything, right? And the only things that I kept were things that I knew had a value to me, to my sense of self, and had nothing to do with like materialism, right? Because if that's gone, and that's fine with me. So it was so interesting because I realized that I never want to be put in that situation again. I don't want to put myself in that situation again, right? Of wanting to unalive myself. That is something that is so common in life right now, because we are under so much pressure, right? We are literally extracted. Everything within us is extracted by businesses, by corporation, by a way of living, by a system that just all it does is extract from us, right? So we are left with so little, and the little is like barely holding us on, right? So what do we do in situations like that, like in extreme situations, is that we wanna unalive ourselves, right? Because we are faced with this ring of fire, something very intolerable, which is our current life is very intolerable, and we cannot, or we think we cannot handle it. So what do? We want to end it. So that is like at its lowest form. When it comes to the serpent, which is like the neutral or like the most progressive, like the method of like how to evolve naturally, is that you let go of things, right? You are willing to let go of things that don't make you feel good, right? And not just like in an altruistic form, but also in the fact that in your body, your physical body cannot handle it anymore. We push our bodies to the extreme, 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 and we have exchanged that value with money, and the money is scraps, crumbs, barely even crumbs at this point, right? And we have accepted that as a fair exchange of some sort, which it is not. We are literally being extracted from every single aspect of our being, right? And we are feeding the system back, and we're holding on because this is what we think it is, and we've accepted that, right? But the natural progression is that when things no longer work for you, you let it go, and then you work towards something that actually works for you. You see that movement? It's change, it's evolution, it is growth. So the things that kept you going, for example, just the literal example, I used to work 2 full-time jobs. I used to work 7 days a week, right? And on top of that, I still had a third job that is on call, or like what do you call it, like gigs or whatever. And I did that, and I had all of my bills paid, all of my debt paid, and I was saving, and I thought that was life, and I was so freaking miserable. I was so miserable. Even though I had savings, I had a good life, like I had a good housing and stuff like that, but there was nothing that kept me going. All I did was work, and then come back to rest, and then work again, and then come back to rest, and that's all I did, right? I did my best to keep myself going. I was working out, I was going to the gym, right? But that still wasn't enough, because life isn't just about working out and going to the gym. You need to nourish yourself, your inner child. You need to find joy. You need to express joy. And if I have to constantly be away from my body to experience any kind of thing, that's crazy. But that's a reality. How many of us used substance to make us feel better, or to make us not feel the way we were feeling, and to escape that? So many of us, right? So when it comes to that type of living, I realized that that wasn't enough. So I needed to find something else to do. And that's what literally set me on this course, is that it was not freaking easy, and it's still like not the easiest, but it is so worth it when you start finding things that actually align with who you are, and then you literally just kind of like understand that, oh, these are my limitations. This is how much I can give. This is how much I would like to receive, and also this is where my joy is. And where something is feeding me constantly, I give back, and that's the cycle, right? And that when something is over, I can then evolve into something more, and then I expand, and then I grow, and then I learn more. And then when that's over, there's always going to be something more, because there is an infinite level of knowledge out there in the world. You can always grow if you are willing to grow. You just need to allow the room for it, which means you gotta let go of things. And this is all what this card is about, is that you need to understand that everything has an ending. Everything has an ending. And the hardest part is to accept it. But it is so freaking worth it. So if you're someone out there, right, who is living a life that they are so unsatisfied with, make that your motivation, make that your fuel into what you really want. And a lot of the times we have not spent the time exploring what we actually want. And that is the process. That is the process. Is that you gotta go through the trials and errors of figuring out who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what interests you, how long does that interest last, and just moving on, letting go, right? Even the food that you ingest, it has its limit of what it can give you, and then it is released from your body. That is the natural process. So focus on your body too. And that's what I like about this too. And I think the banishing is the release part, right? The protection part is the fact that anything that is meant to be released is actually because you are being protected, my love. If it was for you, it'll stay, it'll be there, you know what I mean? But if it's not, it needs to go. That means your habits, relationships, spaces, jobs, right? Anything. If it's meant to stay, it will stay. And that's why a lot of people say rejection is protection. Because what's for you truly will never pass you by. It will always be for you. So remember this. Endings will always be painful. Right? But don't let that pain scare you away from the reality of life, because that is a process of life. The letting go isn't supposed to all be flowers and roses. Sometimes it hurts. And it hurts a lot. To lose a loved one, to lose a sense of self that you thought was really you, right? To lose a job that you thought was your investment or your way to something. To lose your home, where you grew up, the place that made you, that created you, that molded you. To lose chunks and chunks and chunks of memories due to war, due to greed, due to selfishness. That is so painful. But being able to feel that pain is part of the human experience. It's not just about accepting that that happens. It's about accepting the fact that it is part of life. But sometimes, and right now it's like a lot of the times, we're all connected in ways that we need to understand the fact that war, genocide, these are all man-made. So we, as people, in order for us to grow, we need to live a life that is intentional, conscious, and understand that our actions have consequences. Every action has a consequence. So remember this, my love. Live a life that has meaning. And understand that letting go and endings are part of the process. It should not deter you, but in fact, it should remind you to live even more. Death is a beautiful reminder for the life that we actually have. And to always be in gratitude for the things that we have. Because in any moment, it can change. In any moment. And change isn't good or bad. Change is just the process of life. So today's tea is that I was reading about it, and it was saying that it doesn't always agree with certain people's like gut issues and whatnot. So I'm going to be I want to be very attentive about how this feels in my body. But I'm really excited to try it out. I've heard so many good things about it. I am someone who has been in and out of depression for a real long time, my entire life. And for now, like the longest, I want to say about 2 years, I've been really, really working with that. And a big part of that is about feeling my feelings and recognize just how deep my feelings go and how much I truly feel. But also, I always remind myself that these are not quote unquote bad feelings. These are just feelings. And these feelings remind me of my humanity, of my ability to feel. Something that we are constantly fed by everything around us and the system around us, that not everything but a lot of the systems that we exist in, is to not feel, is to escape what we're feeling and to not feel bad, which doesn't make sense to me, at least. But anyways, thank you for being here. This is my 19th brew. Oh my god, 19 is my favorite number, you guys. What an alignment. I love this. I love this so much. Oh my god. This is my 19th brew. Thank you for being here. I love you. Take care. And until next time.